Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Dusty Tucker. I finally put a garbage bag over my light in the background so it's not creating this or omitting this aura annoying for you guys to stare at the background. I know I could just block it with my head, but I move around so much that it's impossible to. Anyway, I sound congested. Allergies, not COVID, so bear with me. I got some pretty bad allergies now that it's springtime and the buds are popping and leaves are growing and everything and pollen is floating around. I'm pretty much hibernating at this time, so I don't go out and shoot. I don't go outside at all until probably later in May. So until everything starts to settle down a little bit. But the purpose of this video is basically going to be an overhaul type video, plus a comparison and just some other ends. It's not going to have one specific point. It's going to kind of cover a wide variety of different things. Mostly, it's going to be on percussion revolvers. I'm going to be comparing the 1861 Navy and the 1851 Navy today and talk about a bunch of other different things, how I store them, a quick overview on how I clean them and how I load them. Just a little bit of everything, because there's a lot of people in the US and Canada getting into these percussion guns and they don't really know a lot about them. And I don't even know what I'm going to call this video. But this is, I don't know if I've done a video on this yet. This is my 1861 Navy. This is my first percussion gun with a steel frame. I've got two with brass frames, but this is my first one with steel frame. And this is also my first 36 cal revolver. And I just wanted to show you a little bit of a close-up on it. I could start with this, I suppose. So yeah, like I said, this is the 1861 model Navy, not the 1860 Army, even though they look very similar, but there's some slight differences. I do not have an 1860 Army yet. I want to get one eventually. This is an older reproduction. This one is made by Paolo, Army San Paolo. It's not the, don't get it confused with the Marco. It's a 36 cal. It's an early reproduction model. Like I said, it's not a Uberti or Pieta or any of those modern S type reproduction companies. It still comes from Italy, and it's an earlier one. This one, I think, is from the 70s. It's got a lower serial number on it, but it's in really, like, this is, apparently the Paolos are better quality than the, what are they called? Army San Marcos or whatever they're called. I can't remember, but apparently these ones are the better quality ones. So it has the screws there for the stock. Not that I'll get one. And it's got the, you can have the stock on it, but I don't really care for that. I like the pistol as a pistol. It's got the cogs, the cog lugs under here, versus the pivot arm on the Navy. This one I find actually works a little bit smoother, but maybe just because it's worn in. The person I bought this from never really shot it. It's got more holster wear than function wear. So it's like he, I don't know, maybe he was a reenactor or something or whatever, but you can see that the holster wear on the side here is substantial. Like, I don't even have that on my Navy yet. And I've had my Navy for 3 or 4 years now. So, but this is from the 70s, but it's in really good condition. I took it apart. I did a complete cleaning on it, and it is really good. The only thing that I replaced was the hammer spring. The hammer spring was really weak, and is typically weak on the early reproductions. The fit and finish on this revolver is way better than that of some Pietas today. The metallurgy, like, is flush with the wood. It doesn't stick out like it does on the Pieta, like this guy. You see how much the wood sticks out? And yeah, I know I'm missing a screw. The wood sticks out. I had to commandeer that screw to fill it in for another screw that I bought. The guy must have been shooting it and the screw fell out and is now gone. I bought the gun and it had a missing screw, so I replaced, actually it had 2 missing screws. I noticed in the picture the frame looked a little loose here, and I've stressed this before in other videos. After you shoot your revolvers, go over and check all of your screws. This video is, there's not going to be any order at all. It's going to be just kind of random chat about these style and type of revolvers. Just going overhaul. I want to do a complete overhaul so somebody can watch this video and kind of get the basis of everything that they need to shoot them, and everything information wise about kind of how they are and what everything. So I'm going to be all over the map. There's not going to be any order or nothing. It's just how I roll with my videos. So, but yeah, so go over your screws after you shoot them. I know this is kind of backwards in order, but whatever. Go over all your screws. Make sure they're all tight, snug, all of them. There's a bunch of screws on this guy, and any of these percussion revolvers, check all the screws. Make sure they're all tight. Even any single action revolver, check all of them. It's a good habit to always check your screws after you clean and shoot your guns. Or even before you leave the range, just quickly, before you put it in its box or its case, just, yeah, they're all there, and then put it in your case. So, yeah, this guy is like spick and span clean. I spent about an hour and a half cleaning this guy. I got some white lithium grease on the cog wheels there. I go a little overboard sometimes, but like the action is like crisp on this guy. Like it's a beautiful action. Absolutely beautiful. For people who are just purchasing these, like I said before, this video is going to be for you. So when you cock these revolvers, please don't just pull the trigger and slap it down on your nipples for decocking. You want to make sure that you cock back, push in your trigger, and then slowly bring it back. And then if you really want to, you could actually slowly bring it back in between cylinders like that, so you don't end up marring your nipples more than you want, but it's really up to you. This cylinder does have a little spot in between that you could, so you technically could carry the 6 loaded and just rest it on the empty, but I'm a sucker for how things were in the day, hence why I don't have any revolvers with transfer bars or anything like that. That's why the back of this hammer has absolutely no nipple snap wear on it, as compared to, I don't even know if this one does either, because I don't typically have. This one has a little bit more. Most of that's from the cap, but you can see that some of them are on nipples. Now, the exception is, of course, when you're shooting, if one falls off and you're not paying attention and you don't notice it, and then you shoot, but it just makes a click and there's no bang. That's because sometimes your caps can fall off on a cocking, or when you're shooting, sometimes they'll slide off. Typically, these reproductions or whatever, the nipple sizes are 10s. Some people say 11s fit better, but I like to have a snug cap. I don't want any chances of that cap just falling off. This is why I really don't like to shoot my Remington, because the Remington, the nipples are kind of canted towards the outside of the cylinder. Therefore, it doesn't have this slot in the frame. You see this slot on the frame right here? That kind of helps keep the caps on, because you could have it like this, and the caps, if they were going to fall off, they have no room to completely fall off until they get to where the loading gate would be on a cartridge gun. Then they'll fall off. So actually, it's kind of funny, but the way I shoot this when I'm at the range is completely different from when I go to the Cowboy match. When I go to the range, I'll shoot it. I will fire a round at the target, and when I go to cock for the second round, I will actually, I think it's called the cavalry cock. You bring the gun up vertical like this, cock it, and then go back to aim. And the reason you do that is so that the spent cap will slide off as the cylinder rotates here. Right there, it'll have, when it's vertical like this, there's more of a chance of it sliding off and less chance of you having to cock it and kind of pick at it and get it off so you don't get a cap jam. I have gotten very few cap jams with this because of the way I shoot it, and maybe that helps a lot, especially with Remington number 10s. CCIs tend to stick on because they don't have the little relief cuts in them like the Remingtons do. Those relief cuts help kind of spread it and fall off a lot easier than the CCIs. So if you have a chance to pick up the CCIs, I definitely suggest shooting CCI number 10s on your reproductions. Unless you have like a Dragoon or something, I'm not sure if they're a different nipple size or whatever, but all the ones I have are number 10s. And so that's why I cock like this when I shoot. Not the first time, obviously, because you didn't fire it yet. So the first time you could just come up, draw, and then fire. But if you cock like this, sometimes the spent cap will just fall off, and then you can go shoot again, and then cock again, let the cap fall off. But when I'm in cowboy action, you can, but if you're on the clock, you typically don't want to, you don't want to be doing that. You might break the 170 rule, or you might slip and shoot a round up in the air, and then you're going to get either a stage DQ or a minor safety. So you don't want that. You don't want that. So that's when I bring in my other hand and just kind of shoot it like that. You're more prone to cap jams that way. I haven't had any yet. I've been really lucky, but that's because when I go to the loading table, I'll half cock it like you always do, and I'll put my caps on, and when I put them on, I wouldn't say it's unsafe, but it's less safe, I guess. I'll take like a wooden dowel, and I'll go and I'll push hard on those caps. Like, don't slam into it, just push in it, and make sure they're snug. Make sure that those caps are seated fully, all the way. And then only when you feel safe, then okay, then you obviously, here you go, safe to holster, okay. And then you holster it. Then you'll know that, okay, those caps are on there. If they fall off, they're too big of a cap. Like number 11s, you could push on as hard as you want, and they might still slide off because of the nipple sizes. But that's a little tip I have for you for cowboy action shooting. Make sure that you push those suckers on there. And sometimes I would even recommend CCIs, just because they have a less chance of sliding off or vibrating or blasting off while you're shooting quicker, right? Not a lot of people shoot percussion guns in cowboy action. I know most people like to shoot cartridge guns, but percussion guns are they're fun. They take a little bit of time to load, and they're maybe not so much for the beginner, because if you're a beginner, you're paying attention to what you have to shoot in order in the different sequences and stages that you have to do it in. You're not going to want to spend time loading this, and then by the time you finish loading both guns, and then you go up to the loading table, you're like, okay, what am I shooting? I don't even know what I'm shooting. I've just loaded. So maybe not for the beginner for cowboy action, but if you're just buying this to shoot at the range, be my guest. Like, I totally suggest, actually, even if you're getting your kids, introducing your kids to firearms, maybe pick up one of these bad boys, because I think if you start a kid shooting at a Gucci gun level, like if you start letting a kid shoot a Ruger 1022 with a 25 round Butler Creek mag or something like that, they're just going to be like, okay, squeeze trigger. Every time I squeeze the trigger, a round goes off. So they're going to just, they're just going to be like, oh my God, this is fun. They're going to like shoot a lot and not really pay attention to the what you taught them on trigger control and all that stuff, all the little the muscle memory stuff that we like to try to keep ourselves in. The kids aren't going to do that, because it's like, I don't have to do anything. I just keep squeezing the trigger and the rounds go off. This is kind of fun. I'm just going to keep doing it. If you teach them something like this, they only get 5 shots, or if you load 6, whatever. I only load 5. You only get 5 shots, right? So if you load this for them, they're going to be like, okay, I only have 5 shots. It's not like the Ruger 1022. I can't just keep squeezing the trigger. I have to actually aim and I want to hit that target. I only have 5 rounds. They'll be more involved in shooting something like this, unless they have like an allergy to the smoke, or maybe they have like a respiratory issue, like what's it called? I can't think of it right now, but you have to like puffer and whatnot. Maybe then you wouldn't want to do it, but I would honestly suggest, even maybe not this is a 44 cal. I call it 44. It's 4.54, whatever. I'll call it a 44. This is a 36. Maybe start them with a small 36 and a light load, maybe like a 15 grains of powder, because then it's kind of like shooting a 22. And with how heavy the barrel is with the extra metal, because they use the same barrel size from both calibers, so this one will be a little bit heavier than the 44 caliber, so it'll be easier to hold on target while you're shooting a light load. So you can do that for one. Yeah, I would, if once I have a kid, they're going to be shooting either a single action cartridge gun or a single action 22. You could even do a single action 22. There's a bunch of brands out there that you could get, like the Ruger Wrangler or whatever it is. Just a little 22 single action. They'll take more time learning the processes in shooting and not just squeezing the trigger and shooting rounds off, not really trying to aim. They're just like, this is fun. Every time I pull the trigger, a round goes off. And that's just me, but whatever. Anyways, let's get on to something else. Let's get on to the downsides of these things. For some people, I know lots of people don't have patience, and lots of people, maybe they don't have time, but I always think that's an excuse, in my opinion. You have to make time. You don't just say, oh, I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to clean the guns, and I don't have time to, you got to make time. You got to make time to do extra stuff that you love to do. If you love to shoot, make extra time to clean that gun. It's funny. I always find this hilarious. People say, oh, I don't got time to do that. But yet they'll spend 4 hours in front of a TV in the afternoon. What do you mean you don't got time to do that? You just wasted 4 hours mind melding with the television, mindlessly just staring into the, like, instead of that, why don't you go and clean your gun, or go and make sure that your guns are all good to go for the next time you want to shoot them, or reload some ammo, or cast some bullets. Like, people always say they don't have time to do stuff, and there's time. There's always time to do stuff. And it's funny. It's funny that I say that, because I'm not a very optimistic person. I'm not looking at the negatives, but I'm just realistic with everything. I'm like overly, bluntly realistic with everything. And some people don't like me about that, but I'm like, just telling you the truth. Like, this is how it actually goes. It may sound like I'm coming off negatively about stuff, but that's just the way I am. Right? Less planning, less disappointment. That's the way I've been raised. So so back to the 36 cal. Here's another difference. Let's say, well, especially right now with the resources in the US really short on supply, I would suggest getting a 36, especially if you're going to make your own bullets, because it's going to be less lead per shot, less powder per shot. You're going to use the same amount of primers. So that's whatever. Lube, you can always make your own lube. People have always asked me what my lube recipes are and stuff like that. I have 3 different lube recipes. The main one that I use all the time is 45-45-10 mixture, not to be confused with the Cowboy one, but this one is the 45-45-10 mixture that I use for all my percussion guns, and my black powder cartridge guns is 45 beeswax, 45 olive oil. Normally I would say tallow, like lamb's tallow, but it's a little bit harder to get a hold of. I think olive oil is widely available, so just go with that. And then 10 is boar butter. Those yellow tubes of boar butter, just put a big squeeze of that into there and then mix it up. You're good to go. That's my lube. That's what I use, and it doesn't melt. It doesn't melt in hot temperatures, at least in Canada. The The hottest that it really gets in the summer is like 30, 35. So maybe in the States it'll be a little bit different, but in the cold, you're still able to get a scrape of that goop in the jar and put it over top of the ball. That's the way I do it. I don't use wads because wads are overpriced, too expensive, especially shipping to Canada, because Canada doesn't have any suppliers of that. And when we do, it's already inflated anyways, so why spend $20 on 100 wads when you can either make them at home? If you make your wads at home, sure, good. If you can find 100% wool felt and a wad punch, be my guest, make your own lube wads. But I like to just, and then over top of the ball. And it doesn't get blasted out either. I've tested it numerous times. You can shoot it and it doesn't blow out the other cylinders with the lube. It'll stay in there. Some of them might melt a little bit, but they'll still lube. And it'll also, with the boar butter and with that mixture, it'll help kind of season your barrel. So that's why I like to use boar butter. Plus it kind of helps with a little bit of a softness in the lube. If you just do 50-50 beeswax and olive oil, it's kind of like a, you have to almost mix it as it cools. Otherwise it comes in, it's almost like a lip balm. Like it's almost too hard on the surface until you actually dig in, and then you're good. But that boar butter just gives it that little extra creaminess that you can kind of grab it and easier. That's what I think anyway. So that's lube. Again, I'll be all over the place in this video. I apologize. That's just the way I roll. So loading, if you're new to percussion guns like this, loading, I can't load here because I can't shoot. So I can just kind of go through the motions on what you would do. You would go to the range and you want to half cock. Once you half cock, you have free cylinder mobility, spins, unless you're really fouled up. And then in that case, you're going to want to take it apart and clean it. Or if you shot it a bunch of times, just be a little more gentle with it. So then you would do is like half cock it, and then you want to line up. What I like to do, this is actually kind of a good habit. You take your ram, and then you go inside of a cylinder. Let's see here, once I get one lined up right there. Go inside of a cylinder like that. That way it's locked. It's kind of defeats the purpose of being on half cock. You can't turn the cylinder, but you'll remember where you are. You can powder this one right here, the one that's closest to the bottom of the frame. You can powder that one. You can put your ball on. And the beauty with this older reproduction is that these cylinders are actually chamfered. The cylinder mouths have a bit of a bevel. So it's really nice with conicals. It's really nice with round balls. Instead of getting a shaved ring of lead, it just squeezes it into the cylinder. So honestly, it prevents chain fires as well. But also the other way, with the shaved ring, you'll know you have a good seal when you get that ring of lead that's just fallen on the table or stuck on the bottom of the ram here. If you get a solid ring of lead, that is what actually prevents chain fires through the front. You can still get chain fires through the back. I'll get to that later. Let's continue with the loading process. So you pour your powder, 15 grains, 15 to 21 grains, I think it is, or something like that with the steel frame. If you have a brass frame, I wouldn't go too much. I wouldn't even dazzle into the 20 grains. I would stay 15, 17 grains, maybe 15 grains tapped, like kind of tamped down just a little bit. So 17 grains-ish is as high as I would go anyway. Some people might disagree, but that's what I would do to longevity with the brass frame and all. So, and then you put your projectile on top and then see how it's lined up. So all you have to do is push this forward, rotate it one, ram it in as far as the ram goes down, all the way like that, and then you just leave it. You just leave it down because your next one is right there. That way you don't forget which one you're on. That's what I do. And then it doesn't spin on you. Let's say you get interrupted or something. You have to put your gun down, and then your cylinder rolls, and then you don't have to pick it up and check. Oh, crap. Which one am I on? No, you know because the rammer's in there already. So yeah, same thing, and then you just pour your powder in, put your ball on top, bring it up, rotate it, and then for me, I would just load 5. You do 5 in a row, and then you bring your plunger back up, lock it up, and then go on your empty, or you don't have to go on. You find the ones that you've put the ball into, and then you take your lube, put it on top. I like to almost fill from the ball to the top of the cylinder with lube. You don't have to. I just like to, because I just over lube stuff, whatever. And then once you do that to all of them, you go back here, and I would suggest getting a straight line capper or a Ted Cash capper with the right caps, percussion caps in there. And then this one actually has a little bit of a groove. The 1861 Navy has a groove in that where that loading gate would be, right there. Kind of helps you get that cap on a little bit better and easier with either cap or tool. Now, sometimes you may have to modify your capping tool. You might have to shave off a little bit of brass on an angle just to be able to, because sometimes it won't, you won't be able to get it in. So I like to take it with my thumb, push it on hard, and then pull it to the side. That's how I do it. You don't have to do it that way. You can use your finger or whatever. And then you get those on all 5, and then you full cock it from there, and then bring it down. Make sure it's on an empty. You want to make sure it's on an empty or in between. Either way works pretty good. As long as the next round, you're good to go. So that's how I would load mine, and then shoot it with these ones. You can either do if you're at the range, I don't know, you can try the Calvary cock. I'm not telling you to do it. You could try it and just kind of see if it works good. If it works good for you, then continue doing it. I like to do it. That's the way I learned. But anyway, so that's the load. That's the way I like to load it anyways. Okay, so we can talk about, I feel like a sneeze coming on. Whew, gotta fight it. Whew. Okay, so what you can try to, maybe later on, you don't have to do this right away, right off the get-go. I mean, you could if you're a fast learner, but I'm definitely not a fast learner. This is the first time I've introduced this to the video. I have started dazzling into paper cartridges, and I don't have that Johnson & Dowell thing that Dustin Weiniger makes on his channel. I don't have one of those yet, so I don't really have a cartridge former per se, but I figured out a way to make them. It just takes a little bit of time to do. It's a kind of a tedious process. I loaded 5 up yesterday, and I want to say it took me probably 20 minutes, so I don't know. For the first time anyways, so you can see the back there that I used coffee filter on the back. I used a patch just around the back to get spark to go through, and this is only a 15 grain cartridge. That's a 375 ball on top there, and I'm trying to be super careful with it because I don't want to break it. But yeah, that's my paper cartridge. I have it in a tiny little box like this. I just used coffee filter, and I found the perfect angle was the circumference of the back of the coffee filter. And then I just cut out a piece of cardboard like this. I have a 36 written on this, so I know which caliber it is. And it matches the circumference of the back of that coffee filter. So I use the circumference of the coffee filter for the hull of the cartridge. I'll call it the hull of the cartridge. And then I just cut out random circle sizes for the back plate thing. And what I use for my former is, I didn't bring it out, crap. I have a little powder flask, and it has the little powder nipple on it that like screws in, and you like put your finger over top, and then you push the little lever to the side, have it upside down, blocking it with your finger, and then you let go, and then you'll have your powder charge. That, I think it's a 15 grain spout that's on there. It is like absolutely perfect to form these for the 36 anyway. That's what I used. I was just looking around. Do I have any kind of dowel that I can use to kind of hold the form of the hull of the cartridge? And I'm like, I'm looking around, like trying to figure out what I can use for that. And I found out that little spout is absolutely perfect. It even has a little bit of a flare on it for that coffee filter. So what you can do is you can glue it, roll it up really tight, and then twist it and stretch it to where that little flare is on that. I wish I had it out here. I'm sorry. But, and then you can push it up, and then it gives you that perfect little flare for that ball to sit on. And it's absolutely perfect. And then you can kind of tell it's kind of in that little angle. It's kind of like in a tube. It kind of like tapers down a little bit. That's the exact shape of that spout. And then the top, I just slide it back a little bit, and I'll put glue on the circumference of the back of the hull here. And I'll take my little circle, and I'll just put it on, and then just, that's the part where the cartridge former would be handy, because you just squeeze it in down and it holds it. But I just kind of keep twisting it and getting it. I have not shot these yet, so I want to try cigarette paper too if this doesn't work. I feel like this is going to work though, because a spark should penetrate that pretty easily, I think. And I test fit it in my revolver. I'll half cock it. I test fit it, and it goes in all the way to the ball like that. It's perfect. So then I just go and ram it home when I'm ready for it. I'll just pop it out right now. So I can't wait to take these out and actually test them to see if they work. Like I said, I only made 5. Some of them are a little bit rough, but I mean, if it all blows out, whatever. I typically didn't want to dazzle in the paper cartridge realm, because I have a different method. You people that have been on my channel for a while now, I have a preload tip video on for the 44 anyway. I'll grab the 44. So for this guy, I have a video. I use 44 Magnum casings with the old primers still in them. So once fired casings, hulls, whatever you want to call them, I take my 25 grains of powder, put it in there, take a 454 ball, just drop it right on top, and then I just give it a little tap with a wooden hammer, with a wooden mallet. Just not a hard slam, just a tap. Basically just let the weight of it hit it. And it stays in. I'll bring that to the range, a container of those, and then that way what I do is I go to the range, I'll half cock my revolver, I'll take the ball. Sometimes you have to use some kind of, like I like to bring a multi-tool out there. Sometimes you have to use pliers to just kind of, you don't need to squeeze hard to pull it off. You just kind of grab it and then roll it off. Put your ball on the table, and then just take the 44 empty casing, and then pour your black powder in. Grab your ball, put your ball on top, and then ram it home. It's almost just as fast as loading it with a paper cartridge. Maybe not quite as fast, but less tedious, because these things do take a while to make. I could imagine even with the cartridge former, it would still take a little bit of time to make a full, like, 25 of them or whatever. So that's what I do. I know it's not historically correct, but I find it, especially for cowboy action shooting, the prepping is easy when you're at home. The prepping is easy because you just take your 44 mag casings, you line them all up, you have your powder measure, you just measure 25 grains, dump it in, ball on top, done. It's really fast compared to making paper cartridges. Don't get me wrong, if I had the time, there it is, the time. If I had the time to make 25 paper cartridges for every cowboy match that I go, actually I'd have to make 50 if I'm going to shoot 2, right? Because it's 25 per 5 stages. That's going to take me a long time to make that many paper cartridges. As cool as it would be, and awesome as it would be going up there with a bunch of paper cartridges, like, oh, that's pretty sweet. But it's just so much faster using those empty casings. And for the 36 caliber, for this size of ball, 375, I actually found that if you use 38 special casings, 38 special with a fired primer in, because otherwise the powder will just trickle out. But speaking of powder, you want to use 3F powder for these revolvers. You could get away with 2F, but I would just use 3. 4F is starting to get a little bit too fine. It's almost, if you pour 4F in here, it might start siphoning. It might start coming back through the flash hole on the nipple. So I would stick with 3F. Anyways, so you 38 special with a fired primer. Put your 15 grains in. Same thing with the ball. Put the ball on top and give it just a light bop with a hammer, and you're good to go. Make 25 of those for each caliber or whatever it is that you're shooting, and you're set. Paper cartridges, I've just started making them. Who knows, I might get addicted to them and I might start loading them more. But try not to use the excuse you don't have enough time when in 5 minutes you go to the TV and watch TV for like 5 hours. Like, I'm sorry, that's not really an excuse in my world. I don't even have television. I just use Netflix, Disney Plus for when my shows come on. That's all I ever do. I don't like to watch TV. I am a craftsman. I like to make stuff. I like to make knives like this. You've seen them in videos. I'm always out in my garage tinkering. When I'm not tinkering in my garage, I'll tinker at the loading table and I'll come up with so many weird things that I'll share with you guys. And some of them work really good. Some of them are kind of just time killers, really. But we can talk about other stuff too. We can talk about storage, how I store my guns. Now, after I do the entire cleaning, after this, I don't do a full strip cleaning every time I shoot. I want to say for these black powder ones, every 5 shoots, I will then take apart the entire gun, clean it, put it back together, oil it before you put it back together. All the little parts inside, make sure they're oiled. They'll keep the fouling off of them for those 5 range visits. And then by the 6th range visit, you're gonna wanna clean it for sure after the 6th, I would say at least. But everyone's different. I've purchased a lot of secondhand guns that are so dirty. It's gotten to the point where I don't even want to purchase another percussion revolver unless I can see it before I purchase it. I have bought 2 now that they have either been completely destroyed, as in it looks good in the picture, but when you receive it, the frame is warped and the arbor that the cylinder connects to the frame here is completely off center because of the brass frame. They overcharged it. They could have used a substitute powder and still used like 30 grains. That's not good. That's going to warp that brass frame. You're done. It's game over. Don't do that. I have purchased guns that haven't even been cleaned after they've been shot. You look down the barrel and it's like, is that pitting or is that fouling? What is that? I want to say at least 80% of the time when I buy a used gun, it was not cleaned. And I don't know how people can sell guns that aren't clean. That's just beyond me. Every gun, before I put it away, I want anyone can come over to my house, put a patch, a lubed patch through my barrels, any one of my barrels, and I guarantee you there will not be anything in there. I always clean my guns very good every time I shoot them. That's how they last a long time. Even if it's not as pretty as it would be if it was a steel frame or anything like that. I found out that this 1861, the original ones back in 1860 actually had the brass trigger guard and the brass backstrap. And some of the Piettas or U-Birdies will be all steel. Everything will be steel. So I'm kind of happy that I think those are called the London models or something, but I don't know. I wish I had a lot more than I have. Trust me. Now that I have the 1851 Navy and the 1861 Navy, I really want to get the 1860 Army and then a Dragoon. I want to get a 1860 Army and 36 cal. Now that I've shot 36 cal, I actually almost prefer it over the 44 cal. I love the 44 cal. Don't get me wrong. It's fun, but just for the cost of this stuff, this glorious lead, I can make a lot more 36 cal than I can 44 cal. So, and it's still enjoyable to shoot the 36 cal. And I find the 36 cal more controllable and you can have easier accuracy than the 44. It depends on the person. Like if you got Hickok hands, big mitts, you can control anything. You could probably control one of those, what is it? Those, Taurus Judges, the 410 revolvers. Like I bet you can handle those things no problem because he's got big mitts. But if you got a small thumb like I do, I got really small thumbs. It's hard to control the left side of your, if you're right-handed, the left side of your gun. So I have to aim a little bit to the right when I shoot because I don't have that extra thumb leverage. But if I'm shooting two-handed, then it's bang on. But when it comes to single action guns like this, I love to shoot one-handed. It just feels more authentic shooting it one-handed. Because you know, I don't know. It's a preference, but that's just how I am. So I got ahead of myself again. Storage. I was talking about storage. Okay, so when you clean your gun after you shoot it, the way I like to store my guns, before I even think about putting that gun away, okay, it's all back together, it's clean, it's good, not done yet. I like to take ballistol, don't touch any of the metal. I like to take a shop towel or a rag and put it on this hand and touch the wood like that, and then I'll take ballistol and I'll just give it a spray on this side and then a spray on that side, and then I take a shop towel and just give it another wipe. And then you can either put it in a sock and then put it in a case, or just put it in a case. I haven't done the sock idea yet, but I think I might get into that eventually. This is a case that I put my two guns in here. Now, I will tell you a tip right now, free of charge. These cases, you don't have to go to Cabela's and buy a pistol case. You don't have to buy a name brand pistol case. This is actually a tool case. This is from Princess Auto. Maybe you guys in the States, I don't know, Harbor Freight, I don't know. Go there. This case was on sale for $15. You can find the exact same quality of the hard plastic. Like, that's what it is. Look at that. Tool case. These are tools. My tools. So, and it has the spot where in Canada, you can lock it on both sides. So it's completely safe for firearms. A hell of a lot cheaper. Way cheaper. You go to Cabela's, you'll find the exact same hard pistol gun cases that are actually smaller than this for like $50 to $120, $30. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm all about saving money. Buy a tool case. This one's waterproof. It's got the seal on it. How can you go wrong? That's where I put my pistols. So I will, yeah, like I said, ballistol. Just give them a dose of each side. Wipe it with a rag. And then put it away. That way, because even after just, right now, for me, even after just handling this thing, I will oil it before I put it away. I'll see finger marks on it and stuff. I don't want that bluing to wear. So it's a good habit to get into. Just clean it, put it away. Even if you just bring it out to show your friends and your friends hold them and check them out and everything like that, before I put them back away, I'm going to spray them with oil, wipe them down, put them back in the case. It really bothers me when you go to a gun store and all their display guns are just gross. You look at their display guns and they got fingerprints all over them. They have the fingerprints on them have been there for so long that they start to like form surface rust around the oils of where you touched your salty hand oils from where you touched those guns. You go into a shop and you see that and I cringe. I almost want to tell them, you guys should really like oil, just keep an oily rag under the counter. And whenever someone's done handling a gun, just take it and go over it before you put it back in your display case. I've seen that in a few gun stores and it's like, man, you guys need to take better care of your shit. Like it's, anyways, that's a whole, maybe I'm just anal like that. I don't know. Some guys will be like, well, it's a good blue color case steel. It should last. You shouldn't have to keep it oiled. If you want it to last long, if you want to take care of your firearms, oil them before you put them away. That's I can't stress that enough. But I think this video has gone on long enough. If you think of anything else that I could add to these style of videos or whatever, you maybe got questions on single action revolvers, I will answer them to the best of my knowledge. Brass frames, recap, brass frames, please use less powder than you would think to use. So it's like, if you think 30 grains should be okay. Maybe go down to 25. But if you think 15 grains, I'm sorry, that's for the 36 cal. If you're gonna put 15 grains in a brass framed, I mean, if you're gonna go too light, I wouldn't go too light, because remember, this plunger only goes so far into the cylinder. You don't want an air gap back in there. You don't want a rear cylinder blowout. So maybe I would stay, the lowest I would go in a brass framed 44 is 20 grains of powder. That's the lowest I will go. The highest I will go is 25 to 27 max. And that's not substitute powder, that's straight black powder like GoX or Swiss. I wouldn't, or Schutzen, whatever. I would not use substitute powder in a brass frame revolver regardless. If it comes to a steel frame revolver, you could use, like, let's say you want to use 777. I wouldn't do 15 grains. I would maybe do 12 or 13 grains, because it has a little more snort, and a little more snort means a little more oomph. So I wouldn't go too much. I wouldn't go above 15 grains of substitute powder. I would stay under 15 for sure. But I think you would be fine as long as you stick with your triple F powder granule size. And yeah, I can't think of anything else off the top of my head right now with these revolvers. But yeah, even from the very beginning of the video, please don't dry fire these things, you guys. You want them to last as long as you can. Even if you make some type of nipple protective rubber thing, then I guess you could. But unless you do that, please don't dry fire your beautiful percussion revolvers. Especially now with your shortage, you're going to want to take better care of your guns. And if you haven't been taking good care of your guns, well, you should start if you want it to last a long time. So I will oil these before I put them away. Keep that in mind. I would do the same thing. But I think that's all I got for this video. So if there's anything else, like I said, that I forgot or you want to know, let me know. It's kind of a longer video. Skip ahead or whatever to the parts that you want. Until then, keep shooting. We'll see you next time. Dusty Tucker signing out. We'll end on this.